everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List, and this is my first week back in school for the semester, although they're online classes, so it's, I wouldn't say easier, but it's not such a time commitment as it was in the spring semester when I was going to campus 4 days a week. So hopefully we should still have time to read. In fact, I have a plan to where I am going to read 4 books this week. That's my goal. Let's see if I do. So the reason I say 4 is because I'm already over halfway through one book. So I use a spinning wheel to make decisions. If you've been watching my vlogs, you know this. And yesterday it landed on read, and I asked Siri how many of the chapters I should read because I already knew I was going to read Slow Heat by Leta Blake, which has 26 chapters including the epilogue. Well, Siri picked 25, so I'm like, okay, cool, I guess I'm finishing the book before I can do anything else. Now, obviously, I have some items, on my to-do list that are more like I have to do them by a certain time, including like edit last week's vlog. So I did that this morning, but pretty much yesterday, I just, from like mid-afternoon on, I just read. And I'm over halfway, and then now that I've done, I've edited my vlog this morning, and I went for a run, and I did some work stuff that I had to do today. So now I'm just gonna read the rest of the night. So I should finish it. I'm not gonna say tonight because I still have some work meetings that I have to attend, but I don't think it'd be unreasonable to say tomorrow or Thursday morning. So I should have time to read another physical book in addition to the 2 audiobooks that I'm planning on listening to this week. So there's that. But Slow Heat is a non-shifter Omegaverse story. So it takes place, it's really interesting because it does have some lore built into it. You know, it wasn't always Omegaverse, but there was something called the Great Death that happened that wiped out a lot of different species and also wiped out a lot of humans, but there are no females left. There are no female humans left. And so they had to do a genetic thing to make it possible for some men to carry a child. So, and those are omegas. And there are alphas and there are betas. So there's Omegaverse, but there's a little bit more lore into why is it Omegaverse? So I found that really fascinating. But Slow Heat is about this guy named Jason. He's 19. He's in university. And he has his roommate and his bestie. And they're in the library. And he imprints on an Omega that's on campus. It's an older Omega. He's 35. So, he's nearing the limit on childbearing years, and he's unpartnered or what have you. And when I say imprint, it's this fated mates essentially. And I will say I was a little disturbed by that scene, mainly because Jason is so young, because they're not supposed to meet Omegas until they're 21 or something. So Jason's so young, so he doesn't have a lot of control over his, alpha impulses. And I guess an alpha impulse, when you don't have a lot of control, when you see your fated mate, you kind of just, attack them. Not attack, but, he immediately, ran over. He was, holding him. He was, scenting him. There was some, dry humping. It was getting to a line where I'm uncomfortable just because this is vaguely sexual assault-ish. And I mean, technically it is, but in this universe it is not, well, it's not common, but it is understood. So that part made me like a little uncomfortable, but once they get past that, Jason and Vale, this older Omega, go through the process of figuring out how their life is going to work together, because they're both very attracted to each other. They both like each other, but there's some hesitancy because of Vale's age and his ability to produce a child. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, take out that like imprinting scene and I would be enjoying it a lot. And I am enjoying it, but I can't forget about that scene. It was so graphic, and like there was, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it without feeling like it's like minimizing. It made me very uncomfortable. I'm like trying to explain it. It's like, he did assault Vale. He did. But there's no but I can say. So that's the part that bothers me. Of like, if that scene hadn't been there, if it had just been Jason staring gobsmacked at Vale across the courtyard and just being kind of weird, I would be totally fine. But it wasn't. It was something very physical and very like assault. And so, yeah, that made me super uncomfortable. So it's definitely going to impact the rating, I think. Even though I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I don't know. Because I'm enjoying the rest of the book. I'm enjoying seeing Jason and Vale get to know one another and how the whole Omegaverse thing works. And seeing their development. So I'm enjoying that. But I just can't get that scene out of my head. So, yeah. Yeah, there's that. So we'll see if that impacts my my reading. Because, like, I get it. I understand why the author did it. And, like, I guess, yes, it was necessary, but part of me is like, was it, though? So, and especially without, like, there wasn't a warning for something verging on sexual assault. So that sort of makes me uncomfortable too, because there were content warnings, but there wasn't anything about that. So yeah, so that's how I'm feeling. But I'm gonna go continue reading the book, and I will start listening to another Wodehouse book tomorrow on audio on my way to work. So I'll check in then probably. Okay. So I did finish reading Slow Heat on Tuesday. Don't ask why I haven't filmed till today. I finished it like, I want to say like maybe like around 10 that night, and so I didn't want to film then. And then yesterday morning kind of got away from me, so I didn't film yesterday. So anyway, I did finish Slow Heat. I did enjoy it. The relationship between Jason and Vale continued to like just make a lot of sense. Obviously, like, I still had an issue with that like initial meeting because it was a lot, but the rest of the book, I thought it was very well done. I really like Leta Blake's writing for the most part. So I did add the sequel to my wish list because it follows Jason's friend Zan, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and he has something going on with him that I'm very interested by. So I probably will pick up that sequel. But yeah, I really liked it. Since I talked about it on Tuesday when I was like halfway, there's not a lot else I can say that doesn't like give away spoilers. So I gave it 4 stars. I was really into it. So then yesterday, on my way to and from work, and then this morning, I listened to the next Wodehouse book that I had to listen to, or had to read, which was The Swoop, or How Clarence Saved England, Tale of the Great Invasion, I think it has 3 separate titles. I didn't like it. I'll say that. So essentially what this is, I don't think it's a short story, but I don't think it's a novella either. It's something. But it's about this story about how England is invaded by like 9 different armies at the same time, and for whatever reason England disbanded their army, and so their only defense is essentially the Boy Scouts. And so it's about how this guy Clarence, who's like 14, he's a scout leader or something, and he arranges situations to save England from the invaders. You can tell just by like how I'm summarizing it, like obviously I didn't like it. And I was talking to my dad a little bit about it, and I feel like I don't know if it would have been better if I'd read it physically because of the way that it is written. So I listened to it on audio, and so sometimes it followed Clarence, sometimes it was like essentially like a news article, sometimes it followed this like music hall manager. Like it switched perspectives a lot, which I already don't like. But the way that it was done, and the chapters are very short because it's only 78 pages, so the chapters are very short. And I realized when I was driving home last night that it was, and I don't want this to be a judgment on the media that I'm comparing it to, because I actually really enjoyed that, but this is a Wodehouse book, and I have read enough Wodehouse at this point to have certain expectations of his writing style, of the entertainment value, of the relationship. I have expectations with Wodehouse, and this did not meet any of them, and that was frustrating in itself. Also, it felt like this weird propaganda for the Boy Scouts, which like I don't think I have inherently anything against the Boy Scouts, but it was weird. But anyway, so the audio version of it made me think of Welcome to Night Vale. Because Welcome to Night Vale, if you've never heard it, is a podcast. It comes out twice a month now. It's been running since 2012. Yeah. And is essentially like a radio news broadcaster of this town that's in the desert where things are just a little bit off. Like it's just a little bit weird and kind of, I wouldn't say creepy, but like you definitely get the sense while you're listening to it that it's odd and not safe. That's how I felt listening to this. But when I go into listening to it expecting Wodehouse, and I get something that feels like a way worse version of Welcome to Night Vale, then I'm just like, I don't want that. So I did not enjoy it. I did not think it was well done. I don't know what Wodehouse was aiming to do with it. I don't know. But yeah, it was not ideal. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad it was short. Because if it was like any longer, I'm like, I don't know if I can continue this. I think I have to DNF it, and then my dad and I will have to figure out how to do a podcast episode on a book that I DNF'd. Like, I don't know how we would do that. I've never DNF'd a Wodehouse book, but I considered it. But I was like, no, it's short. I can get through it. But if it any longer, I may have like texted dad, be like, I don't know what to do. Because it was one of my notes, because I was doing talk to text notes, is like one of my notes is like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And this was before I figured out the somewhat similarity to Welcome to Night Vale. And I want to be clear again, I really enjoyed Welcome to Night Vale. I haven't listened to it in a really long time, but I did go through a phase of like several months where I listened to Welcome to Night Vale, and I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really well done. And it is very atmospheric, and it's like has this lingering suspense, and I really enjoyed that. This was not that. It was not that. Because I also don't know if that was the point. Whereas like Welcome to Night Vale is very intentionally that atmosphere. That's what it's doing. And there are humorous moments, there are touching moments, but like that's what Welcome to Night Vale does. I can't imagine that that's what Wodehouse was going for. So it feels very weird. So yeah, so I gave it 2 stars. I don't know if I had already said that because I'm getting worked up, but I gave it 2 stars. Honestly, that's me putting it through Compile. In the Compile scale that I'm using, I feel like it's a little weird because in order to get a 1 star, you have to average the scores. So 1 star is anywhere from like in between the average of a 1 and a 2 out of 10. And then the scale goes up, and then in order to get a 5 star, you have to get between a 9 and a 10. So like those middle stars had bigger areas because I'm like, I don't feel like this is a 2 star, but I feel like rating any of the categories any lower would be disingenuous because it wasn't god awful. Because if it was god awful, I would have DNF'd, no matter how short it is. So I don't know, but also the fact that like there have been plenty of books that I have read that I did not enjoy, that I wanted to DNF, that I continued reading because I had to. So this could be that. I'm going to leave it as a 2 star, but just know that it's a very low 2 star that's verging on a 1. So that wasn't ideal. My dad did reassure me that the next Wodehouse book that I will be starting the audiobook for tomorrow is better. I'll be starting The Clicking of Cuthbert, or Cuthbert? I don't know how you pronounce it. I'll be starting that tomorrow. It's about golf, which is not ideal, but he said that it is better, which is a low bar, but I will take it. So, yeah, there's that. Anyway, I'm gonna calm down. I didn't realize like how much anger I was like keeping inside about this book. Even when I was talking to Dad, I was like, no, keep this for the podcast. You guys get a preview. Anyway, so there's that. It's behind me. I'll record the podcast on Saturday, and I can completely forget about it after that. The Clicking of Cuthbert is my last book on my August TBR. And since I'm going to listen to the audiobook, I have 3 days where I get to just like read. So yesterday I did read a chapter and a half of writing creative nonfiction, which is for my creative nonfiction class. So I did that. And it's about writing creative nonfiction. So I'm not really going to talk a ton about that. But since I'm home today, because I did that while I was at work when I had some downtime. But since I'm home today, I am like, okay, well, let me read a fun book. And I just kind of like walked around my house and saw like what books are just lying around that I haven't read yet. I didn't look at my shelves at all. And I picked up Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey and Impicciche. And it's kind of, the blurb says like Little Mermaid meets Pirates of the Caribbean, which is interesting. And Kelsey and Impicciche is a YouTuber and Twitch streamer. She plays Sims a lot. Her storylines are really fun and compelling. And so I'm sure this book will be fun and compelling as well. I've only read 2 chapters so far, so I'm not quite going to get into the plot yet. I will hopefully remember to talk about the plot next time I film, because I'm sure I'll have read more by then. But I'm gonna go. Okay. When was the last time I filmed? Thursday? I think that's right. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Friday. It doesn't matter. The only thing that I have read is I have listened to The Clicking of Cuthbert, which is a Wodehouse novel. It is a collection of 12 short stories, all of which revolve around golf in some way. There is some like actual golf within the story, but most of them just take place at this like golf club, and it is narrated by this character who is called the oldest member of this golf club. So there isn't like a ton of golf, which is good because I'm not someone who golfs. I don't find it entertaining or engaging. So I'm glad that it's not like too golfy, but for the most part I have enjoyed the stories. I was having trouble focusing on my way home today, so I've only listened to, I want to say 2 of the stories today, but I should still finish it Wednesday, which is pretty good. So there is that. I'm trying to think. I've read a little bit more of Voice of the Ocean, which I realized I did not give the synopsis for. So, Voice of the Ocean follows Celeste, who is a 17-year-old siren. She's also the youngest daughter of the royal family, and so she has a lot of pressure. She's also a little bit of a black sheep. I guess sirens are a little more practical, and they're not like super emotional, but Celeste is. And so she has a strong emotion. She kind of like tears up and cries, and so and she's the youngest, and so people don't necessarily take her super seriously. But she is training to be part of what's called the chorus, which is sort of their army. But sirens have this perception that humans are highly emotional, highly irrational, murderous monsters, essentially. And so the chorus is supposed to protect the kingdom from humans. Well, I may have mentioned this before, that the Voice of the Ocean is kind of a Little Mermaid, Pirates of the Caribbean combo. So Celeste has an interest in humans, and she happens to sort of stumble upon a ship which is captained by the prince of this land. And, you know, she's interested by him. And then, well, the chorus knows about the ship too, and so they decide to attack it before they get attacked. And Celeste has a little bit of issue with that because she has been, you know, she snuck out to see this ship, and she realizes that humans aren't actually these, like, monsters that she has been led to believe, so she has some qualms about just killing all of them, which gets her into some trouble, and I'm not quite sure how, but she essentially becomes human for a bit in order to spy on the prince. So that's a synopsis. I read about, I want to say 5 chapters today. So not a ton, but I am enjoying it. I'm just very curious about what's gonna happen and the romance, because I mean, come on, Celeste and the prince, whose name I don't know yet. Like, I think I know what his name is, but they're gonna fall in love, or they're gonna get together or something. And so I'm just very curious, like, how that's going to play out. So I am really enjoying that. Other than that, the only other thing I've read is I read the first 2 chapters of Writing Creative Nonfiction for my nonfiction class. I think I may have mentioned that earlier, but I finished the second chapter, which I hadn't done yet. But that is really kind of it. So I have a lot of stuff I want to accomplish today, and I feel short on time, so I'm going to wrap this up. Okay, I'm back. I have read, but it's only been 2 chapters of Voice of the Ocean. So Celeste, this isn't a spoiler because it's literally on the cover, or the synopsis, whatever it's called. Celeste has gone and found the Sea Witch and made a bargain to get legs, because she not only failed to kill the prince, but she rescued him. So this was sort of the deal that her mom came up with, because I guess the council of this kingdom was talking about how what Celeste did was treason, and the punishment for treason is execution. So Celeste's mom, the queen, was like, well, I can send you on a mission to kill the prince, bring his head, and then they, won't execute you. Which is fair logic. So Celeste went and got herself some legs. And that's where I'm at. That's what I've read. Okay, so I'm not ending the vlog. I'm turning it into a 2-week vlog, because the only other thing that I could possibly do is edit it and get it up by this Friday. And just due to work stuff and school and then like other things that are going on, I just don't think I'm gonna have the time. So turning this into a 2-week vlog, because I'm used to editing on Tuesday mornings, I sort of set aside that time. I'm not really used to editing at any other time, which is also why like I have a backlog of like 3 like bonus videos that were filmed in like May and June, and I just haven't done them yet because I'm not used to editing outside of Tuesdays, which is for vlogs, so it doesn't give me a lot of time. So anyway, this is a 2-week vlog now. I haven't read much. The only thing that I've continued reading Voice of the Ocean. I'm on chapter 15, 16 now. And we have met the prince again. I don't know if I've mentioned that. He is... I think I did mention that actually, because I expressed confusion about how there's going to be a romance. Because there was very much like insta-lust on Celeste's part, but from what she knows about the prince, and Raider is his name, and Raiden? I want to say it's Raider, but that's a little too on the nose, I think. It might be Raiden. I don't know. I will look and I'll put it on the screen somewhere. But what she knows about him is not very, like, appealing. So, it's very much giving enemies to lovers right now. So yeah, so I'm still just interested in how it's going to develop. Celeste, with more of the, like, Little Mermaid commonalities. Celeste does not speak. Not because she can't, not because she's lost her voice, but because she hasn't practiced the like human tongue that much, and so while she does understand it, she hasn't spoken much of it herself. And so she worries that it'll be like very clunky and like very accented, and it will like give away where she's really from. So she just doesn't talk. But she still manages to be understood, so that's the important thing. But yeah, it's sort of like slow going because of school. I would like to have it done, but just with the other readings that I have to do, like I'm reading articles right now for my banned books class before I can even read Late Capitalism, Fascism. So, so yeah, it's just, I'm stressed already, but it'll be okay. It'll be fine. Things will be fine. But yeah, I just wanted to film a clip real quick. So I will probably check in tomorrow or Thursday with more of a reading update. Okay, so I have read quite a bit since Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. I've continued reading Voice of the Ocean. I feel bad because I really do want to read it. I do find it interesting. I know that I like the author's storytelling because I think I mentioned before I watch her on YouTube. She's also a Twitch streamer, so I like how she tells stories. But just with everything else going on, I'm just like sort of like picking at it when I can. So I'm in the hundreds. I want to say like I'm at like 130-ish. So, oh, and the male main character, his name is Raiden. Not Raider. It's Raiden. But they have a crew. They're on the ship, and they're going to go like find this treasure. And Celeste is trying to figure out like, what is Raiden up to? She wants to know what he's up to before she enacts her mission, which makes her uncomfortable. So yeah, so I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I did read more of it, so that's something. I would like to really like make more progress on that, because I don't let myself read another physical book until I finish the one that I'm reading, especially if I am enjoying it. But like I said, just with everything else, I just don't. And because my threshold, whenever it comes up on my spinning wheel, is only 4 chapters, so there's only so far I can get in it. So I don't know. We are going to a friend's house tonight to watch the first like football game of the season. And while I don't mind watching football, it's a lot to pay attention to. And so I might still bring something to read, whether it's Voice of the Ocean or a book for class. I don't know. But we'll see. So there's that. Speaking of book for class, I did also start reading Late Capitalism, Fascism on Tuesday. So essentially there are 3 chapters. There's the introduction and then the first 2 chapters, and then it's done. It's only like 130-ish pages, I think. And it's not a fast read, but it's not as complicated as I thought it was going to be. Like, there are definitely terms that I'm like, I have no idea what this means. But for the most part, the theory is being explained well. So Late Capitalism, Fascism is a book about fascism in the late capitalism era, which is where we are now. So I don't really know how else to describe it, but it's essentially explaining. So the introduction went into a little bit of like what fascism is and how we can't just look at like the checklist for fascism that was based off of what happened in Europe in the 1930s and 40s. Like, that doesn't translate to the 2020s perfectly. And so it's sort of examining how fascism looks different in this like modern time. And then chapter 1 is sort of going into the modern history of capitalism and how fascism has developed within it. And so it's really interesting, but for someone who has a lot of existential dread and anxiety, like me, it is interesting. It's also very depressing, and because it's like there are all these bigger systems at play, and it's like, okay, this is good to know that this is what's happening, but it's also like I can't do anything about that. I can't change anything about that. So it's just upsetting. But I am like, I was like 33% through. I'm in chapter 1. So I read the introduction Tuesday night, and then I read like maybe a third of chapter 1 yesterday. So I would like to get it done by this weekend, or by the end of this week, I guess. By the end of this weekend, by Sunday. Let's just clarify what date I mean. Just so that I'm a little bit ahead of my class, because I mean, I know some people have already done the assignment, but pretty much starting from the 15th, we have a lot of readings and or books due every single week. And so if I can get a week ahead, that would be really nice. So yeah, there's that. It's interesting, but it's depressing, so I can only read it in like chunks, but also I want to read as much as I can. And also have found it difficult to switch the idea of reading Late Capitalism, Fascism for a certain time or to a certain page, and then the idea of switching to either Voice of the Ocean or my creative nonfiction book. My brain is just like, I can't do that. And I don't know why. I think there's something about Late Capitalism, Fascism that's just like, that's a big brain book, and I can't switch once I'm in it. I haven't tried, but that's what my brain is telling me. So there's that. And I have also finished listening to The Clicking of Cuthbert. So Clicking of Cuthbert is 10 short stories. I think I said 12 earlier in the week, but it's 10 short stories, most of which take place around this golf club and its various members. I say most because the last one doesn't at all, and honestly that kind of pissed me off. Because I got so used to this club and, you know, the oldest member telling these stories and the framework of how it all developed, and then the last one there's just this random ass story that like still had to do with golf, but like it had nothing to do with the club. There were no characters that we had previously seen. It didn't follow the same structure necessarily. Like it felt out of place. And so, and honestly, I found it just a really boring story. But part of that was because it broke with the format. Like, apparently, with an author, I really like the format. If I feel that they are known for doing something or they do something well, I expect them to stick with it. And so this is another example of Wodehouse being like, I'm gonna do something different, and me just being like, why would you do that? Why? So yeah. But I would say for the most part I did enjoy it. I didn't rate it before I started filming. Okay, Gut Instinct. I didn't mind it. I would say there were some stories that I actually enjoyed. The last two, I did not. So I'd say that's an 80%. I'm gonna say a 3-star. That feels right. Little above average. Probably not something I'm gonna read again though. But there's just too much golf. I'm sorry for for anyone who watches this channel if you play golf or cricket. I've disparaged both sports continually by reading PG Wodehouse. And it's not going to stop. They're just not for me. But I did appreciate that there was less technical golf within the stories. There was still some, but not nearly as much as like how cricket shows up in his books. So anyway, so yeah, I give it 3 stars. I did enjoy it. Yeah, that's about it. That's what I've read in the last 2 days. A decent amount, I think. I've also read some like articles and stuff for class. So I'm trying to really get back in the swing of academia because I had like 3 months off. That was nice. I like learning. I like being in school. And I like reading books that I wouldn't normally pick up for myself, which is pretty much almost all of the banned books class book list that I'm reading. Because after Late Capitalism, Fascism, which I definitely wouldn't have picked up for myself, I'm reading Animal Farm, which I have nothing against. I actually like George Orwell's writing. 1984 is probably one of my favorite classics, but I just haven't picked up Animal Farm, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna continue doing things. I have sort of a busy day, and yeah, we're just gonna see what I can accomplish. Okay, I'm going to wrap up the vlog. Did I film all weekend? No. It's mainly because up until yesterday, I hadn't read anything since Thursday, and I'm pretty sure did I film an update Friday? Maybe it was Thursday. But it's even no matter what it was, I didn't read all weekend. I didn't start my new audiobook. So yeah, so there wasn't really much to update anyway. I did, however, yesterday read quite a few chapters, actually. I want to say like 10 chapters of Voice of the Ocean. So I think I'm at the 200-page mark. And this is sort of at the point where, again, I can't really go into details because a lot would be spoilers. But Raiden and Celeste have such an interesting relationship. I'm really glad that there is sort of this like push and pull between them. It's not like Raiden does something that is, you know, nice or kind, and Celeste is like, okay, he's a good person. Because like in reality, he's kind of not. He's kind of like this anti-hero so far. And I don't know if I'm positive there's more to it, but it's just not clear yet. So I'm enjoying this like sort of like waffling Celeste is doing of like, oh, he's kind, but also he's like a smarmy asshole, but he, you know, cares about these people, but also he apparently doesn't care about these people. And so it's like, it's very confusing for her, which I appreciate. I do also think it's really interesting how the voicelessness is still showing up. So Celeste is not talking. Everyone thinks that she's mute. But in reality, she does still have her voice. That is not something that the Sea Witch took away. But, and I may have mentioned this already, of like, she doesn't have confidence in speaking the common human tongue, and especially speaking it without an accent. And so she just doesn't. She's like, I'm not gonna, she thinks that if she were to try, that would like out her. And so she's like, I'm just not going to. And people are still able to, you know, communicate with her. She's still able to get her point across to people. And so I really like how that's showing up. This like selective mutism. I think is really interesting the way that the author did this. So I'm enjoying it. I do wish I was reading it faster. But it sucks because like my threshold is 4 chapters. So that's like as most as I can get in like a reading sitting. And I do also, like, on one hand it's good because I do also have other things that I have to do. I have work, I have school stuff, I have a lot of reading to do for school, I have like training for running, like I have all these different things, so it's a good thing. And it also just means I'm reading this much slower than I typically read fiction. And it's not because I'm not enjoying it. I am actually really enjoying it. But it's just, there are just so many other things going on. So like on the one hand, it's good because I'm not like putting aside other things to focus on a book that I don't actually have like a reason to read besides the fact that I'm enjoying it. But it also means that it's taking me way longer, so I'm not reading the books that are on my TBR. So yeah, there's a good and bad with it. But overall, like I said, I am enjoying it. And yeah, that's what I've read this weekend. But I did want to talk a little bit about my running because I did my first 5K on Saturday. And I did it. I actually did it. Not that I thought I wouldn't, but like the start was a little rough to where I was like, oh shit, can I do this for 3 miles? But I sort of just stuck with what I talked about with my personal trainer, with a friend of mine that runs. I said a minute running, 2 minutes walking, pretty much the entire time, because I'm not at the point where I can run 3 miles the whole way. I'm working up to that. But I would say that's probably the most that I've run in like one go. So yeah, I'd say I probably ran like, what, maybe a third of it. So that's, honestly, that's really good for me. That is progress. And I finished the 5K sooner than I thought I would because of that. I finished with a time of 59:14, which obviously, you know, is not fast. But for my first 5K, for being at the point where I'm not able to run the whole time, like, I will take it. Especially because the other 2 times I had done the route as practice, I was closer to like an hour 10. So I will definitely take shaving off 10 minutes. So yeah, so that was good. And then the race that I did is sort of like a warm up to the festival in my town. So we came home, I showered, we went to breakfast, and then we went back to where the race had been for the festival. And we were there for like 5-ish hours. And that killed my legs. The race was like fine, my legs felt fine. I had like a little bit of shin splints and like calf tightness, but like otherwise felt totally fine. But just standing and walking for 5 hours, nope, that did me in. So I went to personal training this morning. We pretty much just stretched the entire time, and so my legs feel better now, which is good because I'm going running tomorrow. But yeah, so that was that. That's a success. I was very happy about that, and I'm already looking forward to my next race at the end of October. So, yep, that's pretty much what I've got. So thank you so much for watching this 2-week vlog of my first 2 weeks back in school. And I really do appreciate it. Make sure you leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, click notification bell, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.